Okay, every question he gets is ridiculous or silly, etc., etc. And the brother made a good point. According to Acts, Jesus is a man who God gave miracles. He's a man approved by God. And that's another strong verse that proves that Jesus is not God. It's clear, ladies and gentlemen. How come every verse he brings up has to have fancy interpretations, but every verse we bring up is crystal clear? Jesus prayed. Jesus is ignorant. Jesus has a God. Jesus never says I'm God. Jesus is a man accredited by God who gave him miracles. I mean, how much more clearer can it get? And I'm off the mic.
Yeah, can I get a one on the mic? Can admins hear me? Yeah, appreciate it. What I posted in the room was John 14, verse 12 to 14. What we notice in that verse, Jesus says he's going back to the Father, and he tells the disciples if they ask for anything in his name, he'll grant their request. What I noticed from that specific passage, right, Jesus has to be all-powerful because he's capable of granting what the disciples asked for, right? He's omnipotent, and he's omniscient because he must know who's asking. He must know who's requesting what they're asking for. But the question I have for Sami is this, all right? The question I have is either Jesus is asking the disciples to commit adultery, because we know when we're requesting prayers towards heaven, we must only ask God. Or if you're comfortable with that verse, I want you to come on the mic and ask Jesus to bless you. I want you to request Jesus to bless you. I want you to ask Jesus to bless your family and Jesus to give you health. Because what I'm saying from that specific passage, right? Jesus is asking disciples and all believers to ask of him while he's in heaven. As a Muslim, are you comfortable with that passage? Your mic.
Okay, can someone undot Kavane? He's PMing me just for a second. Yeah, can you enable him? Undot him? Kavane, put a 1 if you're in the room, and so we know you're undotted. Kavane. Okay, there he is. Just one second, let me clear my throat. Okay, sorry about that. Now, the question, you can ask Jesus for something and he will give it to you. Again, context is important. In fact, the context of that verse explains it well. According to the verse that you just mentioned, Jesus is going to the Father. Now, according to Jesus, the Father gives him everything. That's in John chapter 17 and John chapter 13 and Daniel 7. So if Jesus can give something for you, if you ask him for something, that's just an honor and a power bestowed to him by God, as he clearly said. God has given me everything. God has given me these miracles and this right. And in that verse, as I just said, he is with the Father. He's with God right there. So, in other words, you can sort of say that he's like a secretary. We know that Jesus does nothing on his own. That's what he himself said in the Gospel of John. I don't do anything of my own. I do the will of the Father. Put this in context with the other verses I just brought up, that God gives him everything. So therefore, logically, you put 2 and 2 together. If you ask Jesus for something, you put it with all the verses I just brought up, context, then he's just like a secretary. He asks God, you ask Jesus, he asks God, and there you go. And what did even Paul say? There is one mediator between man and God, and that man is Jesus. So the context, again, you have to look at it with context, and when you look at it context, that's the response I would give you. And I believe that's basically it. I'm off the mic.
Okay, well, I didn't actually hear the question being asked because I was having problems with the room. But I heard some of the things that were said by Sami, so I just want to respond to some of that. Sami, you said that Jesus does nothing without the Father, and somehow this disproves his deity. Jesus cannot exist apart from the Father, because Jesus eternally derives his existence from the Father, because he is eternally begotten of the Father. And I actually said this in one of my opening speeches. I said that because Jesus eternally partakes of the essence of the Father, he is deity. So thus he cannot exist apart from the Father. And again, just to respond to some things I heard before, the New Testament clearly teaches Jesus is a man. When the New Testament says Jesus is a man, that does not preclude his deity at all. In fact, that is precisely what Christianity teaches. It teaches that Jesus is both man and God, distinct natures united in one person. If I'm ignoring a lot of stuff, it's because I didn't hear a lot of it because I was having problems with the room.
Oh.
Now is hello everyone. Now our Muslim brother Herkstar. Are you ready, bro? Herkstar. Yes, bro. Your turn, أخي حبيب. Mkvine, please undot Christian and you dot Muslims. Okay? Stop undot Christian. Only who want to take the mic. Let undot him. Thank you. Radical moderate, you have been do that.
Okay, yes, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Can you give me a one, please? Can you guys give me a one? Okay, thank you so much. What I want to ask is, I'm not trying to misrepresent the Christian's position that Jesus is fully God and fully man, but if he did had God inside of him, or had a divine nature, then why did he need an angel to strengthen him? In Luke chapter 22 verse 43, didn't Jesus have God inside of him? Why did Jesus depend on someone else, some sort of entity outside the body? Should he be dependent on his divine nature, or can you say that the spirit in Jesus has no strength whatsoever? Please, I would like you to comment on that. Also, you said that he is the wisdom, Jesus is the wisdom. But can you please explain Luke chapter 2 verse 52? Jesus increased in wisdom and stature. If this was God, can you please tell us about it? Your mic.
Okay, I'm sorry, Paltalk froze up for a second. I did hear most of what you were saying. Did you say it's my mic as in mine? Just give me a yes if you were, so I can respond to that. Okay, you say Jesus is divine wisdom, but Jesus increased in wisdom and stature. How does that work? Okay, well, look, the word wisdom has to be used in specific context to see whether we're referring to simply knowledge or whether we're referring to actual divine wisdom. Divine wisdom, Jesus uses several phrases to indicate that he is to be identified with that divine wisdom. Increasing in wisdom and stature, that is Jesus Christ in his human nature, increasing in his knowledge. As I said, he was limited while he was in his human nature. So I also wanted to bring up John chapter 14, where Jesus says, if you ask me in my name, I will give it to you. And Jesus is presently in heaven when he asks this, because he says, I am going back to my Father, because he was with the Father before he came into the earth. I was asked to mention that. So yeah, I'm responding to what I've heard there. So if I ignore stuff, it's because Paltalk is starting to be a little screwy with me. And people, please stop IMing me. It's actually kind of irritating.
Kabane, you can go on Do Not Disturb. Click on Actions and go on Do Not Disturb. That's what I'm doing. So nobody can PM you at all. So just do that. Okay, and by the way, that was a good question from the brother. Jesus increased in wisdom. So if a person increases in knowledge, that will mean there was a point in time when he wasn't fully aware of good and bad. Hey, isn't that what Isaiah 7 said? It sure is. So indeed, put it together. Even if Christians reject Isaiah 7 is referring to the Messiah, even though most do, even if they reject Isaiah, they can't reject Luke, which says that Jesus will grow in wisdom, which means he was ignorant at once, which means he once didn't know between right and wrong. And this is their God that they want you